Lastly, there is also a section in EasyM Web that allows you to manage the accounts for service providers who perform maintenance work for you. To access this part of EasyM Web, click on the Service Provider link under the Users drop-down list on the left side of the screen. Clicking on the Service Provider link will take you to the following screen, which we'll call the Main Service Provider Account Control screen. To add a new service provider account, first locate the yellow-colored New button on the right side of the screen. Clicking on the New button will take you to the following screen where you can enter the details for the new service provider for whom you're providing a login. The fields on this form marked with a red asterisk are required and must be filled in before you can save and create the new service provider account. The most important fields in this form are the Login ID and Password fields. The Login ID field is where you enter the main login username for the service provider, and the Password field is where you enter the password used in conjunction with that username. You must also retype the password in the Retype Password field to ensure that you've entered it correctly. The login ID you choose for the service provider must be unique, and you're not guaranteed to be granted any one you choose since it must be unique and it may already have been taken by another user of EasyM Web. If the login ID you choose has already been taken, a window will pop up prompting you to choose a different one. Click on the Save button to save and create the new service provider account once you've entered all the required information. You can also edit the information for an existing service provider account. First, select the service provider account you want to edit. To do this, first look to the right along the row in which the service provider account is placed until you see a small circle in the Select column. Click in that circle to select the service provider account. A small dot will appear in the circle to indicate that it's been selected. Once you've selected the service provider account you want to edit, then click on the Edit button below the list of service provider accounts. You'll be taken to the following screen. This screen is very similar to the one at which you create a new service provider account, except for the fact that all of the information previously entered for the service provider account is already filled in. You may change any of the data on this screen. When you're finished editing the service provider account, click on the Save button to save your changes. You can also mark an active service provider account as inactive, or change an inactive service provider account to active status again. Similar to editing a service provider account, to do this you must first select the account by clicking in its corresponding circle in the Check column. Then click on the Change Status button below the list of service provider accounts. This will toggle the status of the account. If it's active, it will become inactive. If it's inactive, it will become active. A service provider account that is inactive cannot be logged into and consequently is not able to be used. You may decide to do this, for example, if you're not working with a particular vendor anymore. You can also delete service provider accounts that have not been used. Again, first you must select the service provider account by clicking in its corresponding circle in the Check column. Then click on the Delete button to delete it. However, you may only delete service provider accounts that have not yet been used. In other words, no data can have been entered into it if you want to delete it. If you want to disable access to a service provider account that's already been used, it's recommended to mark it as inactive instead of deleting it.